the Watauga Arts Council with your host, Cherry Johnson, serving arts in Watauga County for more than 30 years.
Hi, I'm Cherry Johnson, Watauga County Arts Council. You know, it's been a while since I've had Bob Oleberg with me here in MTM, but you came a while back and talked with us about the Boone Country Dancers.
Mm-hmm.
And you are, what's your position
Well,
per se?
I've been the chairman of the steering committee for about 10 years, and recently I've become the treasurer. We've tried to, spread out responsibilities more. But
That's
I've
great.
been with him, actually I guess I've been with him for about 12 years now.
That's wonderful.
In the organizing part of it.
Now, how old is this organization?
Well, the Boone Country Dancers, it may not have been called it when it started, but back around 1991 or 1990, and possibly before, there were community dances at the Apple Barn in Valley Crucis, and that's where we have our dances now 8 months of the year. And that group just kind of evolved into what is now the Boone Country Dancers.
That's great. Now, when you say 8 months of the year, the 4 months off are due to?
Well, for 8 months of the year, we moved to the Old Cove Creek School gym. And it's just because historically the Apple Barn had not been insulated and heated.
Right.
And recently it's become insulated and heated, but because we park on the grass, we have to go to a place where we have permanent paving during the winter.
So in the winter months, you're at the Old Cove Creek gym.
Yeah.
And then in the rest of the year, you're at the Apple Barn.
Apple Barn.
Okay. Now, when during the month can we find your group doing things?
It's usually the second Saturday night of every month. There are a few exceptions. The Old Cove Creek School gym always has a basketball tournament on the second Saturday night, so we moved to the first Saturday night in March. And if the Apple Barn has a wedding or something that they know about far enough in advance, and we'll try to accommodate them. But usually it is the second Saturday night, and people can always know when the dance is going to be on our website.
Okay, which is BooneCountryDancers.org.
BooneCountryDancers.org.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, let's talk about Boone Country Dancing. What is that? I mean, we don't have but just you here today, so I guess you're not going to demonstrate for us.
No, it'd be hard.
So what is country dancing, and as opposed to any other kind of dancing?
Well, country dancing, I think, takes in a lot of, I mean, I guess it could mean a lot of different things, but in this context, it means, folk dancing that's derived from the British Isles and came over to America, to the Appalachians, and to other parts of the East Coast. We are primarily a contra dance group. We do occasional squares, but in contra dancing, people form long lines like in the Virginia Reel.
Right.
But the name contra means against, and in contra dancing, of course, you have a partner, and with your partner, you're a couple, and the first and third and fifth couples move down the line, and the second and fourth and sixth couples move up the line.
Oh.
So two sets of couples are moving against each other. So
And that's where
the name comes from.
Okay.
And square dancing is the more traditional dance of this area, but the reason we don't do more square dancing is because it takes up more room. And historically, we've had problems with crowding, so and people really like contra dancing a whole lot.
Yes, they do. I've heard a lot about it.
It's got a lot of movement and rhythm to it, and it's fairly easy for people to follow, maybe compared with square dancing, a little bit more complex.
Now, let's say that someone's listening and they're going, I've always kind of wanted to learn how to do that, and I just never did have a chance.
Yeah.
How can they do that?
Well, our dances are from 8 to 11 when we, once a month. But beginner's instruction with the caller starts at 7:30. So if you've never contra danced before, you'd want to come at 7:30 or maybe a little bit before. And honestly, if you showed up at 7:15 and asked somebody there's probably going to be an experienced dancer around, you could ask them, hey, could you just start showing me some things, and they could show you how to twirl and such. And but there's beginner instruction. Also, there's instruction at the beginning of every dance.
Okay.
So there's 5 minutes of instruction at the beginning of the dance. So and that happens in every dance. The other thing, though, if you're a beginner, is don't be shy about walking up to an experienced dancer and saying, "Hey, will you dance with me?" Because we try to get our more experienced dancers to dance with the beginners and
That's
the less
great.
experienced
That's
dancers.
great.
And we also encourage people to change partners every dance.
So
And
you
for
don't
that
come with
reason-
somebody and dance with them all evening.
Well,
Yeah.
we can't stop you from doing that, but we but we certainly encourage people to mix it up.
Now, is there a certain attire that someone wears when they come to these dances?
Not particularly. I guess what it's not is, I guess, the checkered shirts and blue jeans that
Or the
people
skirts out to...
or the wide skirts that are more associated with, I think, Western square dancing,
Right.
or traditional barn dancing. The only restriction really that we have, I mean, besides some very practical considerations, are in the Old Cove Creek School Gym. The Watauga County Parks and Recs have been very gracious to allow us to use their gym floor, which we all remember from junior high school. What they told us, don't go on the gym floor with
Street shoes.
Street shoes on,
yeah.
and we do everything we can to encourage people. I mean, we've got it when we send out invitations via email. We remind people, bring soft sole shoes just because you are on a gym floor. But try as we might, we're probably a little bit harder on the gym floor than say volleyball or basketball, where everybody is wearing gym shoes.
Right. Now, is there a cost factor to get involved
There
with this?
is, and it's a graduated scale. For 18-year-olds and up, it's $7 for the dance, and but for ages 13 to 17, it's $5, and then children 12 and under get in free.
Right. Now, I know folks who might enjoy this kind of dancing more because it's not as free form. You know what I mean? It's structured.
Right.
There's a certain way of doing it. And so there's a certain amount of confidence in that once you figured out what you're supposed to do.
Right.
Nobody's critiquing, that was a really strange move you just did or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so for those folks who are a little bit intimidated by a more free style of dancing, this would be a more structured dance. And for those who feel too restricted with that, obviously this wouldn't be their thing.
Well, on the other hand, there are basic moves that you follow through, but there are also embellishments.
Oh, okay. So you
like,
can get creative.
Like twirling, and twirling is part of the dancing, but spinning,
Right.
which is kind of additional too, and dipping, and like people dip at the end of a waltz or at the end of classical ballroom dancing. Some people try that as well, and it really is something more for experienced dancers, and regrettably, inexperienced dancers see other people doing it and they want to try it, and sometimes that's not good because
Right.
you can have minor collisions, just because people don't know quite how to move.
Right.
But it's structured, but it's structured in that way. But I guess like as with waltzing or other kinds of ballroom dancing, there's a lot of room for embellishment.
That's great. Now, most of the dances are fairly fast-paced.
They are, and I mentioned contra dances and occasional squares, but there are also waltzes. And there's a waltz at the end of each set. Well, there's two sets. So, there's the first set that ends about 9:30, and then there's a waltz. And then, that the band plays too, and sometimes, we'll get tape music that we play waltzes on during the break, and then there's a waltz at the very end of the concert.
That's great. Now, physical ability to do this kind of dance, what does it take for someone to be able to do this kind of dancing?
Well, the first thing I'd want to say is we have dancers ages, I think the youngest dancers I've seen out there are 8 or 9 years old, and the oldest dancers, I'd say we've had some dancers that are in their early 80s. And we do have a range obviously a range of skills, but there's always an age in the a range in the age. Yeah, I mean, it can, because the dances are only 6 or 7 minutes, and they are somewhat aerobic, you know, but you know, you can sit the next dance out.
Right.
So there's opportunities to rest, and that is an opportunity for everybody to just sit out and rest. But no great physical ability.
Okay.
You know.
All right, so those folks who might be a little bit more restricted in their physical ability might be able to do this then.
They would.